Happy 2015. This is Roger with part 3 of training number 3 for calendars in Outlook. By default, every account comes with one calendar. You can see over here on my screen that I have calendar checked, and it has my email address on the right. If I'd like to create another calendar, a brand new blank one, I wouldn't right-click on My Calendars. I would right-click on Calendar here and choose New Calendar. I can give this calendar a name. You can see already that I've got a personal calendar, and so this might be something else like GIS calendar, where perhaps I put all my appointments and things relating to geographical information systems. So I give the calendar a name, I click OK, and it'll show up under My Calendars. If I check the box by GIS, you'll see this other calendar open on the right, and I can merge it with my current calendar by clicking this overlay mode left arrow button. It puts them together. I have nothing on that GIS calendar, so it doesn't look like much. All my appointments, as you can see, are blue. So I'm going to split them again, and I'm going to create another appointment. So we're going to go into January. It's January 2nd today, and on the 14th I'm going to create a new appointment, and I'm just going to give it some properties, or it'll be a test GIS meeting in my office. Sure, 8 to 8:30 is fine. Save and close. And now, interestingly, it's changed the color of my GIS calendar from green to orange. Now, I think it just picks a random color, so don't worry about that. I can give it a permanent color if I like by right-clicking it, choosing color, and choosing one of these 9 colors. So that's an option for you. Now if I merge them, you'll see my orange meeting here and all my blue meetings here. But they're on 2 different tabs. All of my meetings on my default calendar are a lighter blue. But if I switch to the blue tab, then the meetings on my GIS calendar are orange. Now, nobody's going to come in and say that you have to have these different calendars. It's totally and completely fine to just put everything on your default. But an additional calendar is an option for additional organization for your work life, maybe your personal life. I do have a personal calendar here that would keep my personal appointments. And every calendar that you have has permissions for people that aren't you. So let me go into my default calendar and I'll show you what I mean. I'll right-click and go into Properties, and I'm going to go into the Permissions tab. And you can see that the name here is default, and that that means that anybody else who to use a group-wise term, proxies to my calendar will be able to perform the following functions. They'll be able to read the full details of each appointment. That includes the location, the subject, and whatnot. But everybody does not have permissions to delete appointments. That's solely mine, so delete items is at none. Write, W-R-I-T-E, nobody has the ability to create items for me, or create subfolders for me, or to edit their own or all of them, and nobody else is the folder's owner. All of these permissions in these 4 boxes are set by this permission level drop-down. The permission level drop-down is a set of pre-configured options that when I choose one will change these other values. So let's say that I give everyone author permission. No, let's not do that. Instead of changing what the permissions are for everybody, I'm going to add a particular person. So I'm going to add my boss Tom. I double click him to put him on the add line, and I'm going to click OK. You can see that Tom is now another name, and that he has reviewer permissions as well. But because he's my boss, perhaps that he can do more than just see everything. Let's find let's see, a publishing author. Okay. By giving Tom publishing author permissions, he can not only see the details, but he can also delete items that he owns, and he can edit items that he owns, meaning he created them. He can also create subfolders for me and create new items on my calendar, and the folder is visible to him. So that clicking OK at that point would change his permissions only. I'm going to remove that permission so that everyone, again, has reviewer, and I'll even cancel this dialog. But another purpose that you can do with these permissions is you may have or may be an assistant to a manager, and you would want to help manage that person's calendar, and they would want you to help with that so that they can focus on other tasks. Well, the permissions dialog is a place where you can give the necessary permissions to your staff to enable you to modify your calendar at will. All right. Well, once you have permissions, how do you see someone else's calendar? Well, one way is to have that person share their calendar with you. This isn't as effective for me because everyone has these permissions already on my calendar, but I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm going to click on my GIS calendar and go into its permissions, properties, permissions. Again, everybody has reviewer, and I'm going to right click and share. I'm going to share this calendar with somebody else in the organization. So Steve Johnson is another one that is somebody that I work with a lot on GIS meetings, and so I could share my calendar with him. And I'm given some options. Can the recipient add, edit, and delete items in this folder? Because remember, by default, they can't. Notice that this option only applies to recipients within my organization. Can I share the calendar with someone outside Orem City? Yes, I can, but they can't add, edit, or delete items. So I'm going to check this option, and then I would send it along. And what Steve would receive is an email saying that I want to share my calendar with him, and we'll give him some buttons. And one of those I think is accept, and by clicking that, he would then see my calendar under, I believe, shared calendars. If it's not that, then it's something else, but I believe it shows up under shared calendars. He could then check the box under GIS, or Roger W. Dunn GIS, however it shows up in Outlook, and be able to see my GIS meetings. But not only see them, he'd be able to edit and add stuff as well. Notice that that's totally different than him sending me a meeting that I have to accept. He would just be able to put items right on the calendar. Okay, now if I did want to change the color, I always think of green when I think of GIS, so I'm going to do that. Right click and do that. And then on my personal calendar, I'm going to color that to, it's already brown. Great. Okay, so that's how to do multiple calendars and how to manage permissions on them. Stay tuned for more.